This is Radio TV Phono Nut, and originally we posted the diagnosis video of this Visual Tech closed circuit TV magnifier and some commentary as far as how this machine was obtained and some experiences I had in school, etc. That was all posted on the same video, but I've decided to separate those two videos, and this is going to be the commentary video. And I might end up adding some things to this that was not on the other video. Now, we still need to obtain some parts for this. The line marker potentiometer is bad. Yeah, this one, the top one, is the one that's very touchy, very bad. And the contrast pot is not in too good a shape either, but at least we can still use this. But anyway, as far as how this machine was obtained, we need to go back to when I entered first grade in public schools. And people, including some school officials, tried to tell Mama that they were going to put me in a special ed class because of my low vision, and Mama told them absolutely not unless they can prove that there's something wrong with his mind. But they are not going to put him in a special ed class just because he has poor eyesight. So they ran all the tests on me, and they determined that I was suitable for regular classes as far as my mental faculties go. And my teacher was a lovely lady. In fact, I go to church with her today, and we still see each other from time to time. She's been retired for years now, but they couldn't have paired me with a better first grade teacher. She was not intimidated when she found out there would be a legally blind child in her class, and she rode with the challenges that we faced. Well, for my first grade year, we tried all sorts of various off-the-shelf magnification devices, and we rode with them as best we could, but they didn't really help out all that much. Well, sometime during my first grade year, my mother found out about this closed-circuit TV magnifier that was available. I think a family friend found an article about such a device in a newspaper, and he forwarded it to Mama. So Mama made arrangements to have me tested on one. And at the time, there were two models available. This model here with a standard monochrome CRT, and then there was another model with a green phosphor CRT. Some people fare better with the green phosphor tube. I preferred the standard monochrome tube better. So once it was determined that this machine could be very, very beneficial to me, my parents made arrangements to order one for home use, to the tune of about $2,500, but that's a lot of money, but when you need it, you need it. And then Mama approached the school district about buying me one of these machines for school use, and let me add that Mama was always polite in her dealings with the school system. She never steamrolled, she never cussed, and Mama was of the era that you get more with kindness than you do by being a horse's patoot. Well, to make a long story short, the powers that be at the school district, and keep in mind there were no ADA laws in place at this time, they told Mama, well, we've never spent that much money on one child before, and Mama said, this doesn't have to be just for my son, because you're not going to make me believe that there won't at some point be other visually impaired students in the school district, and this machine could be beneficial to more than just one person. Well, after some more back and forth, the powers that be told Mama, we'll buy him one for school use provided you and your husband buy him one for home use. And Mama said, well, the one for home use is already ordered. So the order was placed for the machine for school use. It arrived sometime during the early part of my second grade school year, and my second grade teacher was also wonderful, and she was also not intimidated by the fact that I would be in her classroom. And the day the machine came in, I ended up helping them put it together because I was mechanically inclined even back then. And I still remember the lecture that Ms. Faulkner gave the class on the first day that it was in use. She said, "This is not a TV set. This is a machine that Brian needs to help him see his schoolwork, and you are not to touch it. The only people who are allowed to touch it are myself, Ms. Needham," which was the teacher's assistant, "and Brian." And for the biggest part of my school years, I rolled that machine around on a roll-around cart from one classroom to another. Now, on the occasion whenever I was in middle school, when I had a class on the upper floor, the maintenance man would have to bring it up, and they made arrangements for that class to be the last one of the day, so the maintenance man could bring it up, and then after school let out, then the maintenance man would take it back down to my downstairs class for the next morning. And so that's how the visual tech came to be. And there were indeed other visually impaired students that later came in the district, and the district ended up buying more of these machines as years went by. So I guess you could say my mother was a bit of a pioneer in getting things done for the visually impaired students of the Meridian Public School District. Now, as far as my mother being kind and polite, I'll tell you the story about somebody who wasn't. I don't remember exactly what grade I was in when this happened, but at some point my mother met the mother of another visually impaired student, and this woman cussed like a sailor. She steamrolled. She was haughty. And one day she asked, "Mama, how come they do and do and do for your boy, but I can't get them to do anything for mine?" And Mama said, "Well, perhaps if you would clean your mouth up and stop pushing your weight around, then maybe they would do something for your boy." It wasn't long after that Mama was talking to one of the ladies that was instrumental in helping me out, and she said, and she asked them, "Why are y'all not helping that kid?" And they said, "Let us tell you our side of the story. We have gotten that kid books. He refuses to use them, large print books, that is. He refuses to use them. He throws them off on the floor. And we told his mother that maybe you can come pick them up and he'll use them at home in a more comfortable setting, and she couldn't even be bothered to come pick up the books." So that's the other side of the story. So that just goes to show, there's always two sides to every story, and you need to get the facts before you make any assumptions. Now, with that said, as far as all of my teachers, most of them were great. Now, there were some that were a bit apprehensive when they found out that there was going to be a legally blind student in their class, but once they got to know me and saw how I operated, then they wanted a whole room full of kids like me, and it really had nothing to do with the fact that I'm visually impaired. It had everything to do with the fact that I had a positive attitude, I did my work, I behaved, and I made good grades. Now, I don't have any issue as far as people being apprehensive about what they don't understand, but in the case of my teachers, most of them were willing to be educated. Now, in a video that I'm going to make after this one, we're going to talk about dating and relationships from the standpoint of a legally blind male, namely me, and we're going to talk about that some more as far as girls not wanting anything to do with someone with a visual impairment. But in many cases, they are not willing to be educated, and that's when we have a problem. But we'll talk about that more in the next video. I only remember one teacher that was a real horse's butt, and if the truth be told, she really had no business teaching. She really needed to be a military drill sergeant. Now, she was my 6th grade reading teacher, and she couldn't stand me. I couldn't stand her. I was not the only student who had problems with her. There was a girl in my class that I'll talk about some more in the dating video that had epilepsy, and this teacher knew about that. Well, one day this girl had a seizure, and this idiot teacher responded by shaking her and screaming at her. Quite frankly, that teacher should have lost her job for that, and really, she should have been charged. Early on in that school year, they had a teachers' meeting between, well, let's just rephrase that. They had a meeting between all of my teachers, my counselor, and Mama to discuss my situation and address their concerns and address things that might be beneficial for me, etc., etc., etc. Well, this one idiot teacher had the gall to get up and basically tell everybody that I was mentally retarded and that I wasn't capable of learning. There was one teacher there out of everyone who was there who stood up for me. He was my math teacher. I believe it was his first year to teach, and he stood up and told that woman in front of everybody, he said, just because he is legally blind doesn't mean that he is lacking in the upper story. And if you would actually take the time to talk to him for a few minutes instead of putting him down, you would actually know that. And I believe Mama hugged his neck. Now, I don't think he taught for very long, maybe 1 or 2 years. I think he probably got fed up with the bureaucracy. But I haven't seen that teacher since the end of my 6th grade year, but he will always have a special place in my heart for standing up to me. Or standing up for me, I should say. It's getting late at night. I probably shouldn't be making videos in the middle of the night. Now, as far as the young man who threw his books off on the floor, I mean, I feel like the problem was he wanted to appear as normal as everybody else did. He wanted to be accepted, and he probably didn't want to be bullied for looking quote-unquote different. I get it 110%, and we're going to talk more about that in the dating video. That's also going to we're also going to discuss social issues and things like that as well. I get that. But even whenever I was in school, I pretty much had the mindset of this is what I need to succeed, and if you have a problem with me because I have to use these things to succeed, then too bad. You can just move along. And I never was one to feel like I had to compromise my values or try to hide my condition just to be accepted. And Lord knows, I longed to be accepted. And there were issues there. And like I said, we'll talk more about that in the next video. But as far as advice I can give for any parents or guardians of a visually impaired child or a child with any other type of handicap, always be polite with your dealings with the school system or whatever powers that be that you have to deal with. Don't go up in there cussing and steamrolling. I know that type of behavior is fashionable in today's world, but you really don't want to do that. And don't give up. You might, or you probably will, meet some resistance along the way, but don't give up. But you can still press on forward and be polite at the same time. If you're a visually impaired student, or a student with any other kind of handicap for that matter, don't give up. Keep pressing forward. And you will run into idiots in your walk on this earth. But you can't let those idiots be a hindrance. Ignore them as best you can and move on with your life and do what you know you have to do to succeed. And always strive to do your best, because a lot of people sacrificed a lot over the years so people like me and many others could receive a quality education. don't take what they did for granted, and don't go in there and do a subpar job and skate by. Do your absolute best. And if you do that, then you will probably be very successful. Okay, I guess that's about all I've got for this video. That's about all I can think of right now. And like I said, the next video will concern some social issues and dating, and we'll even talk about some mistakes that I made along the way. And no, I am not perfect. I make mistakes just as often as everybody else does, maybe more so. But I'm not ashamed to admit when I've done something wrong, and we'll talk about all that in the next video. And I'm probably also going to step on some toes in the next video, but those toes probably need to be stepped on. Alright, that's enough, and I'd just like to take this opportunity to thank all of the people who were involved with working with me and my mother during my school years, all the wonderful teachers I had, all of the school officials. I would start naming names, but as sure as I do, I'll leave somebody out. And I know some of y'all will be watching this because this is going to get posted on my Facebook page, and some of their names are going to be tagged in it, so they will see this. But I hope y'all got something out of this video, some information you could use, and maybe some motivation as well. Alright, enough of that. I wish everybody a safe and happy Thanksgiving, and the next video will be coming pretty soon. Wait a minute, hold everything. I'm forgetting half the stuff I want to discuss here. Like I told you, I shouldn't be doing this in the middle of the night. But now that we've discussed some of my school experiences from an academic standpoint, let's talk about my road to independence as a visually impaired person. I was adopted by my grandparents at the age of 5, and they had my best interest at heart, and they went to bat for me. But Mama, God rest her soul, she was very overprotective of me, and she basically did everything for me. Now, I don't fault Mama for that, because she was doing what she thought was best. But let me just tell you, if you were the parent of a visually impaired child, or, well, any child for that matter, you may think you're helping them out by doing everything for them when they're young, but you're really not doing them any favors by doing that, and here's why. I know death is something that we don't like to think about, but one day we're all going to leave this world, and something that none of us were thinking about whenever I was little is that Mama wasn't going to be around forever. And whenever that happened, then what was I going to do? Well, whenever I was young and Mama was doing everything for me, I didn't really have any motivation to learn how to do basic things that I needed to be doing because somebody else was doing them for me. And at that young age, I was eating it up. Well, when I graduated from high school, the lady who was over vocational rehab for the blind, she wanted me to go to the Addie McBride Center in Jackson, Mississippi for some training, and Mama or myself were not on board with that because I didn't want to step out of my comfort zone, and Mama didn't want me that far away from home. But the rehab counselor told both of us, if you expect us to help you, then you're going to have to do something to help yourself. So I went to Addie McBride. I learned some things that I needed to learn, and me and Mama both survived. But whenever I got back home, I didn't really put many of those things into practice because, once again, Mama was doing everything for me. Well, Mama passed away a few years after that, and my biological mother moved in with me, and she told me, Mama, let me think, Mama might have been, this discussion might have happened the day of the funeral. She said, "Son, I love you, but I'm not Mama, and I'm not going to be doing what Mama did for you." And my biological mother gave me a whole laundry list of things that I was going to be learning how to do, including washing my own clothes, going in stores by myself, etc., etc., etc. And she let me know, "Son, I'm not trying to be mean, but I'm not going to be around here forever, and you need to know how to do these things, so when I'm not around, you can do these things on your own." Well, my mother pushed me into doing those things, and sadly she passed away almost 3 years ago. And looking back, I'm very thankful for that. Not that she passed away, that she pushed me into doing things, because now I can pretty much do anything I want to do or need to do except drive an automobile. It may take me longer to do some things. I may have to go about doing some things a little bit differently than most people do, but I generally get the job done. Now, with that said, I recently accomplished a very big milestone. I walked from my house to a local Mexican restaurant that's probably about a mile away. That is something that I would have never even thought about doing whenever I was younger. And even whenever I was at the rehab for the blind, they taught us how to navigate streets and such things as that. And I was nervous as a cat doing it, even with the mobility instructor there with us. And I'll tell you what brought on my decision to make this walk to the Mexican restaurant. After my mother passed away, I've been extremely blessed to have friends who see that I get to where I need to go. But most of these friends are considerably older than I am, which means more than likely they're going to leave this earth before I do. And if that happens, I need to have some plans in place as to how to get to where I need to go. And also, there might come a time when I need to go somewhere that these friends are not available. And third, I don't want to wear out my welcome. Yes, these friends have been very generous to see that I get to where I need to go, but I don't want it to get to the point that every time the phone rings, they look at the caller ID and say, "Oh my Lord, that's Brian. Where does he want to go now?" And there was another reason I had for making that walk to San Marcos that day, but it was the bullhead coming out in me, and it was motivated by the actions of some people that I know. But I'm really not going to get off into that in this video, because there are certain people that I need to have a discussion with about all that first. And I'm mature enough that I'm not going to go into full-blown rant mode about that subject without having a friendly, mature, adult discussion with some folks first. But what it basically has to do with is following through with commitments and doing what you say you're going to do, and being respectful of everybody. And that's all I'm going to say about that. Now, with all that said, I'm proud of myself for what I did. I have some other places in mind in the future that are a little further away that I would like to venture out to, and we'll probably be doing that someday. Well, maybe in the spring when it warms up a bit. But I can tell you, both of my mothers, my biological mother and my grandmother who adopted me, would both be, I believe they'd both be proud of me today for my accomplishments. Although Mama would have been petrified at the thought of me walking to San Marcos by myself. And even my biological mother would have had major concerns about it, but I think both of them would be proud of me for making that leap. But anyway, I hope y'all got something out of this video, and maybe you can apply it to your lives. I will be posting the other video as far as dating and relationships and social skills and bullying in the near future. And with that, we'll get back into some electronics repair videos soon, and I'll just say happy Thanksgiving and more to come later.